Hey guys, welcome back. Today is the day. We're going to try to put as many of these parts on as possible. Whatever we don't get done today, we'll try to finish up in the next few days. And hopefully in the end, we'll have a running motorcycle ready to be registered and put back on the road. We have everything laid out here in front of us today. Pretty much everything I need. Whatever I don't have, I'm going to rob off the other motorcycle, including the wheels, which is going to be the first thing we do. Okay, I lied. The first thing I'm going to do is take off these vortex stickers, and then I'm probably not going to be able to film everything for you guys. I'll just update you all as I get things done, because otherwise this will take forever. Okay, got the wheel off. Rotor looks pretty decent, so we're going to save that. Okay, detective time. So those vortex stickers were very hard to get off, meaning they had been on there for a while. And even though it looks good, it's probably been on here about as long as he's had those stickers, right? And if you notice, it was missing its chain guard for the swing arm guard. So I have one of those over there to put on. I think I will go ahead and clean up the swing arm before I put any new stuff on. I'm going to take the front sprocket cover off, change the sprocket, clean up all the gunk and oil around there, and then we'll start putting on fresh stuff. All right, we got the new sprocket put on. The other guy was running a 15 tooth, so we're going back to 16 tooth. I have to measure the chain by the new sprocket measurements. We can't go by the old ones. Went ahead and put the new chain guard on. Ran out of carb cleaner. It's presentable. Everything feels like it should, so we'll keep going. I think I'm going to keep the rear rotor because both of them seem to be about in the same condition, but I am going to put in the new, yeah, you see those, the new little shock absorbers. Okay, got the new rear sprocket on. Looks really good. Nice Japanese original quality steel. It's a nice tight fit in there. Had to use a hammer to get it on, whereas the other time I just pulled it off, it fell right out. These are in good shape, but I don't know what brand they are. We'll go ahead and put the nice Brembos on now. All right, there you have it. New wheels on. Bearings are nice. New pads in. I think I'll wait on the chain for a minute and we'll fart around with some other things first, and then we'll do the math and count the links later. Well, I've been jumping back and forth here. I got my sliders put on, fuel cap put on, got the seat off, tank up, and we're going to take the air box off, get to the cables. We're going to do throttle and clutch and get rid of all this, and then we'll put the new air filter in and button it all back up. Okay, so I got the air box off and I have the new throttle cables installed. Nice and snappy. Very nice. I'm going to clean up a little bit more and put the air box back on, put the new air filter in, and then we can put the gas tank back on for good and should be mechanically all good to go. Then we're just going to change the oil and the filter. Okay guys, I think I'm going to call it a day for today. I'm starting to lose light. We have it all back together, and I have the clutch lever installed with a new cable, new barrel adjuster. Same with the throttle, everything's new cables, nice and smooth. So tomorrow we'll get back to the ignition, the front wheel, putting the front fairing bracket back on, and hopefully mount the headlight and the nose piece. Then it's just a matter of general maintenance, draining the oil and finishing touches with the turn signals. All right guys, welcome back to day 2. So the plan for today is to change the front wheel and swap the rotors over to the other wheel, put on new brake pads, change the oil, put on the chain, and then we'll hook up a lot of the other stuff on the front end, like the speedometer, the new ignition, the new ignition ring, and hopefully the nose cone and the headlight. I think the last things we'll do are electrical stuff, like the tail light and the turn signals, and I think I have to fix a little spot. One of the headlight wires got pinched, so we're gonna have to fix that with a soldering iron. I went ahead and mocked up the new Y bracket and support for the front fairing and mirrors. I straightened out the little fuse bracket that was all bent up, and everything else looks pretty much intact up here. I am gonna have to figure out the turn signals. They've been clipped, so we'll probably just solder those in. All right, so now we have to take the front wheel off of the old bike and swap it over to the new bike. And it's going to be a bit of a juggling act because I don't have enough jack stands. So how I think I'm going to do this is I have an old utility cart with a couple of metal hoop handles, and we're going to put it under the bike and get some straps and basically ratchet up the straps and suspend the front of the bike off the ground. And then I have one kind of crappy Lockhart Phillips track stand that I can use for the front wheel for the other bike. Is it janky? Yes. Is it sketchy? Absolutely. But is it working? Yes, the front wheel is off the ground. That's all I need. Let's get it off. Okay, front wheel is off. I really do not like these cheap stands, but I've got it up off the ground, so we're going to do this real quick. I'm going to swap the pads out while the wheel's out, slide the new one in, put it back on the ground, hopefully without disturbing any of the balance here. All right, there it is. Front wheel back on the ground. I talked myself out of changing the rotors because they're both in pretty much the same condition, so I just left that alone. But got the new pads in there, everything's greased up, cleaned the calipers and underneath the fender and everything that I could until I ran out of WD-40. I noticed that the brake lever was a little bent. Looks like he tried to bend it back too, but didn't quite get it, and it's kind of chewed up on the end. So I have the other one from the blue bike. I think I'll go ahead and just steal it. Then we have to do something about this reservoir. This reservoir is not stock. The guy from the shop just threw it on there, and the bracket's bent. So I'm going to steal the bracket from the blue bike, and I have a whole new reservoir and diaphragms and guts for it. So we'll rebuild one, put that on, and already just from squeezing the pistons back, I've got fluid all over the ground. So this little guy can't really handle much. I also broke the little brake light switch, indicator switch underneath. It just crumbled in my hands basically when I tried to take the wires off. So I have one of those inside, brand new. I'll put that on. And we might go ahead and do the oil change soon. Maybe that's the next thing we do. I'm just really nervous about getting these bolts out. I want to make sure they all come out without snapping, and we put them back in without snapping them. And hopefully the block looks good after we take everything off. This is not the original cover, so someone's been monkeying in there before, but hopefully it's in better shape than the other bike. I will go ahead and do the stator while we're in here. Basically, I'm just going to take the one that's on the blue bike right now, take it off, and swap it with this one and put this one on there. I don't know how old that stator is, or maybe it's original, but the Rick stator I have inside, I've been running on my other bike for 10 years, and I trust it. So we're going to put that on, and then the rectifier up in the tail goes on as well. All right, that little side quest is done. See, the other one was pretty wonky. So got the new one on there with the springs for the brake light. Okay, in order to do the oil change, we have to steal the cover and the stator and the rectifier off the blue bike. I hate stealing all these parts off of it, but these are easy to get parts, so we'll just put them on a list for later. And I'm just happy they're going to get used somewhere. So we'll pop this off in a minute. It shouldn't have any fluid left in it, but we'll put a pan under it. And I got to go hunt down the rectifier wherever I put that. And then we'll go outside and repeat the process. Okay, acquired the parts. Even got the gasket out intact, brand new. Found the rectifier, and I even found the battery tie down. I was missing that, so that's another thing I'm stealing off the blue bike. All right, got the oil draining. Looks good, a little brown, but smooth, and doesn't look like there's any metal flakes in it. Doesn't feel too bad. Smells a little gassy, and I think he's got rich lean adjustment on his power commander under the seat here, and I noticed a little bit of what I think is either a little bit of gas or oil in the airbox when I was cleaning it out, so it might be running a little rich. We might have to adjust that. Got the filter off. Luckily it wasn't too tight. Doesn't smell too bad. Looks like it was in good condition, but we'll go ahead and put another one in there. Alright, this is kind of scary. I'm going around and each one is basically hand loose. Yep, just about every one. So this guy didn't even put this thing on tight, and it's missing its little cable organizer, which again I'll be stealing from the blue bike inside. Well, good news or bad news? good news is I'm glad I opened it up, because this stator is cooked, especially up here at the top. It's almost black. So yeah, this thing definitely needs to be replaced. It was probably the original and they just put back in it after they replaced the cover. And the bad news, so I thought this was a clean crankcase. It is not. Let me get you in here. So you can see there's a little crack there in one of the bolt holes, and it looks like they've put some silicone around it to seal it up. Now, it's not nearly as bad as the other one. The other one had a whole chunk broken off and it had to be welded back up, and the welder didn't do the greatest of jobs. This time it looks like it's still all intact. It's just got a little hairline crack there, and I've had it for months now with oil in it in the garage. It hasn't dropped a bit, so we're going to leave that alone and just put the new gasket on, clean the surface up, and put the cover on, and hopefully it'll just keep on holding oil and we shouldn't have any problems. That's a little bit unfortunate, but hey, it's in a lot better shape than the other one. This is not that bad. So our oil change project escalated very quickly. We have to lift the tank up to get to the wires for the stator and the rectifier, which are underneath the gas tank mount, which has to come up, and then you pop the ECU cover off. Okay, old stator is fished out and all the old gasket materials removed. So now we just have to put the new cover on and wire it back up. And I basically had to take the whole tail apart just to get to the rectifier, but we got to it. And I guess while we're here, we'll go ahead and swap out the tail light. Okay guys, I think that's gonna about wrap it up for today. It's starting to rain a little bit and I'm kind of running out of energy here, and I've got a few more things I need to wrap up, and I need the full day tomorrow to do it. But that's some pretty good progress today. We have the new cover on, stator, rectifier on. It's filled with oil, about 3.5 quarts, and we'll start it and run it tomorrow and see if we need to add a little bit more then. But so far it's holding. We'll leave it overnight, see if it's still holding, if it spots anything in the morning. Otherwise, we should be good to go. Just ignore that little crack in the bottom of the engine, and I think she'll be a perfectly good bike. So we're going to do the turn signals and a few other things on the top end tomorrow, put the chain on, and finish up the brakes. And that should be pretty much it, guys. Oh hell, you guys know I can't leave well enough alone. Let's go ahead and try to fire this thing off. All right, she's got gas in her. Let's see what she does. All right, gauges are working. Gonna go ahead and hit the prime. Fuel injection works, it's primed. Neutral indicator works. All right, here we go. We're up to temperature 122, starting to idle down. Smells good. So far so good. Let's see if the horn works. Horn works. Alright, I'm going to put her to bed and let all the heat transfer around the engine case and hopefully seal up all the gaskets and that stator cover. So hopefully tomorrow morning we won't see a giant puddle of oil underneath it. And if everything's all dry, then we're good to keep on going. Good morning, guys. Welcome back. Day 3. And checked on her overnight, and I don't think she's leaking any oil. There was one drop of oil on the ground, but it was from the inside of the lower cowl, and it was from me just being sloppy with the oil change and dripping oil onto the plastic, and sat there overnight, and I think just a little bit dripped off. But I wiped the bottom of the crankcase with a napkin, and it's completely bone dry. She held her oil overnight. I think we're good to proceed. I think this morning we're going to go ahead and take the top fork cap off and change the ignition, and then we're going to finish up the brakes and the front end, the top end, maybe get the front cowl piece put back on and the headlight. Okay, got the top cap off. Now it's easier to do this off the bike, but you have to remove all 4 of those screws, or those 2 screws and those 2 Allen head bolts, and these things strip out really easy. And a lot of guys that want to swap out ignitions really quick try to do this on the bike and end up stripping it out, and they're stuck in there. Ask me how I know. I'm going to take this inside and try to get these out very gently and put on the new ignition. And I think I'll cut to some taillight mod footage because I forgot to show you all how I did that. Alright, after a couple quick cuts with the Dremel and some fussing around with some sandpaper, we got it to fit nice and snugly in there. It's not perfect, but any gaps will get filled in with silicone, and when it cures, it'll be rock solid and waterproof, and no one will know. So yeah, that's basically all you need to do, is just cut out a little piece of plexiglass, put in that panel, and then the light, which is clear bulbs in there, will shine clear light down onto your license plate, and you don't need any extra hardware, infrastructure, electronics, any of that crap. So you eliminate a lot of weight, and I think aesthetically it looks a lot better. Kind of how I think it should have been designed from the factory. Oh, and a bonus feature from doing this is when you slam on your brakes, extra light goes onto your license plate. So, well, for visibility purposes at least, other drivers can see you better when you're braking hard. If you're doing unscrupulous things on the highway maybe, and you slam on the brakes, certain law enforcement might be able to see your license plate better. So use that information as you will. I just barely managed to get it off. It was a fight, but yeah, you have to take those really crappy bolts out, and I found some other ones I'm going to replace them with. The heads on them are a little bit deeper. The other ones, they're real shallow, and if you're monkeying with them, especially with a standard size Allen wrench and not a metric, you can strip these out real quick, and then that thing's stuck in there, and then you have to buy a whole new one of these. Okay, I got the fork cap back on, and the ignition in, ring is on, everything's nice and tight up there. So we'll move on to the brakes. I think we just need to get the bracket, the reservoir, and hook it up right. Okay, we're going to use one of the online mail orders diagrams as instructions for how to put the master reservoir together, but I have all those parts, so this should be pretty easy. I am missing those 2 little hose clamps that hold the intermediate tube from the reservoir to the brake lever, and I need to order those. Okay, got the master cylinder reservoir pre-assembled, so let's go put it on the bike, fill it up, and we should have brakes. Ah, I forgot the old back brake has a couple of hose clamps on it, so I stole those. Reservoir is on, it's all full, brakes feel good. Remember, I can adjust them over here to different preloads. I think I'm at number 3. What about you guys? Alright, and yeah, I got the hose clamps on, everything's straight. So now we'll just move on to cosmetic stuff and then the chain. Alright, the last bit that we have to do to make this thing rideable is put the chain on. So went with a nice DID premium quality chain. I'm glad I waited till the end because I already had one of these chain tool kits, but I forgot I broke the rivet tool, the rivet pin. So we have to be careful with this kit. It's not the most robust. Computer said it was 108 links for the chain. I'm assuming that's with the master link, and we will line it up and count and double check before we cut, and hopefully we can get that link riveted on first try. Otherwise, we only have one other try with a chain, and I don't want to spend $50 again for another chain tool kit. Well, I lucked out. The kit I bought, which said it was for a 929, actually ended up being the right length. I bottomed out my chain tensioners, and I have plenty of slack here, and I can pull it back, and gets nice and tight. And that is right about in the middle of the dropouts where you want it. So, perfect. Didn't have to cut it. Now we just got to rivet the plate on, and we are good to go. Okay, try number one was a failure. I over tightened it and split one of the pins. So at least now I know. I'll go get the spare. All right, try number two was a success. I just overdid a little bit. I thought I was getting to a point where it was going to bottom out, but turns out that's just the part where it's going to break. So you just want to do, the instruction said less than a turn. I don't know about that. I went about a turn and a half. And last time when I broke it, I had about 3 or 4 turns in. So yeah, I think about a turn and a half on the chain tool flares it out just enough. And it's still got plenty of movement in it, about the same as all the other links. So we didn't put a tight spot in it. And now we just tighten up the chain with the tensioners. Man, what a fight. Everything's been a fight today. But I finally got all the chain guards back on. So this last one, it's got a little riv nut there, and that little sucker was loose, and the whole thing was rattling. So what I did was I just took some wire and stripped it of the rubber, and then just wound it around underneath the riv nut until the riv nut got tight, and then bolted it down. So now the bike should just be able to be ridden around. I just need to check the coolant level and make sure that it's topped off. It's getting a little late, but I will try to fuss with the nose cone and the headlight, try to get some of that put together, and maybe get the cut wires up there sorted for the headlight bulbs. So I've got the clips, retaining clips put in, and the little vents put in. So now we just take the saran wrap off the headlight and bolt it up, and then should be able to mount it on the bike. Okay guys, it's getting way too dark to see, so I'm gonna have to put it up, but I thought I would show you all before I did. I got the nose put on and the lights put on, but we ran into a little bit of a problem. Now the fuel injection pump is not turning on. So I'll have to figure out what I plugged in and what I unplugged and see what's going on, if maybe there's a short or a fuse blown. But we'll deal with that in the morning, and for now I'll show you the lights. Okay guys, so last night I was talking about how I went to put everything back together and all of a sudden didn't have fuel pump priming, and I didn't know what was going on. And I went through all my wiring, and really nothing had changed since yesterday except for the ignition. So I wired up the old ignition, and so what have we learned? Those cheap Chinese ignition sets are crap. And I have another one to go on the blue bike, and I'm guessing that one is also crap. So we'll have to go with original ignition, which means one key for the trunk and the ignition, and one key for the gas tank. Okay guys, that's some good progress made, but I need to go to work soon, so We will hold off on the turn signals and the final installation of the plastics until the weekend, but I think we should be ready then to ride around the block and run through everything and make sure nothing falls off and nothing leaks. All right, guys, welcome back. What is it, day 4, 5? I forget. But we're wrapping things up here. We've got the tail light put in, and now we just need to put in the turn signals, put on the plastics, mirrors, the windscreen, and it is done. So I'm having a little bit of trouble with the turn signals. The right one, the lens doesn't want to stay, so I've super glued it and put some tape on it for now to hold it. And when it dries, it should be fine. The connectors on the back have been cut, of course, and I have a spare wiring harness inside, so clipped off the turn signal connectors there. So we're going to have original connectors so we can remove those if we want to later. Just going to use trusty Milwaukee soldering iron and put those on real quick. Okay, all wired in. I forgot, I also bought a pair of mirrors for the blue bike, so I guess we're going to steal those. Okay, got the mirrors on, got the windscreen on. That was a bit of a fight. There's that one bolt hole right in the middle of the fairing, and it's one of those impossible bolts, and you just have to loosen the whole headlight assembly and put the nut through and put the bolt in and then put the headlight back in while it's all hanging there. So yeah, it's a bit of a juggle, but I managed it. So now we're all tight, everything's attached. We just need to do turn signals and panels. All right, guys, I got to wrap it up. I got to go to work. So we are so close. I just need to put the side panels on and the front turn signals. And the terminals are still there, so we don't have to solder them in. We should just be able to plug them in. Okay, guys, welcome to the last day. So we've got the whole right side attached. We have the turn signals hooked up, and we just need to finish up the left cowl piece under the handlebar and the left side panel, and it is done. I'll go ahead and show you the turn signals now.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps it up. 7 days of hard work, a little bit of frustration, a little thinking on my feet. We finally got everything back together. It is 100% mechanically and electronically good to go, ready to be registered, shouldn't have any problems. Turn signals work, brake light works, headlight works, horn works, the fuel injection works, the flapper for the airbox and the exhaust work. I took it up and down the street, goes through all the gears, everything is really smooth, feels very tight in the gearbox and really snappy in the throttle. Everything is pretty much like a brand new bike. After 30,000 miles, I really couldn't ask for more out of this bike. Figure $2,800 and about $500 to make it rideable, but we probably put closer to about $1,000 in it to make it nice. So we'll say about $3,800 for this bike compared to $2,200 for my first bike, and I've put about $1,000 into that over the years. Really about the same cost. So it looks like I've just got my bike again, just 10 years fresher. So hopefully we have 10 more years with this one, and if I do a little restoration work, hopefully 10 more years with my first one. But that'll be for the fall, and the blue bike will be for the winter. I'm just happy to have this one for the summer. Thank you guys for hanging out with me and going through the process. More videos to come on this one and the other one over the next few weeks, months, who knows. Talk to you later.